You've got to bet on yourself in this idea.
The moment you start making bold moves in life, it seems like everyone has an opinion about what you're doing. So when you're launching a business or making a career move or getting into a new relationship, some of the feedback is useful, but a lot of it is noise that can take you off course if you listen to it. I'm fascinated by the way feedback shapes us, and I'm exploring how feedback can either build us up or tear down our confidence. To dig into all of this with me is the legendary Tamron Hall. She is the host of the Tamron Hall show on ABC, and she won a Daytime Emmy for it. Her talk show has millions of people watching it, so she's no stranger to feedback coming her way. Sometimes I personally feel like I need more feedback to operate at the next level, but I've also had incidents where I felt out of authentic alignment because I took someone else's feedback. I want to figure out how to navigate it all. Come with me.
Yeah, so I want to put this in practice and play a little game with you on this because when we started this show, we got feedback on the show, right? And so I want to share with you some of the early feedback that we got and play a little game. So the game is like consider, implement, or respectfully throw out.
Okay.
Is this feedback that you should consider? Like there's something to this, you should look into this. Implement it immediately is the second one. Or like, you could let that one go. Sure. You could throw it out. Okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
So the first comment says, I was stoked to hear of this endeavor where I get to listen to female bosses pontificating. Unfortunately, there is far too much talking over one another, talking at the same time for me to enjoy the conversation, despite the fact that I'm really interested in the subject matter. I'm hoping it improves over time. Fingers crossed emoji.
How candid do you want me to be?
Real talk.
That pisses me off.
Okay, say more about that.
Because every show where there are two women, they've received that feedback.
But not men, you think?
I don't think in the same way.
Oh.
Early in my career, it was the most common, you guys are talking over each other. You guys are talking over every time there were multiple women. And the other one was, you're laughing too loud. You laugh too much.
Heaven forbid you be joyful, right?
Heaven forbid you just be normal. At the same time, asking for authenticity.
Right,
So in an authentic conversation, people are excited to share. I tell people my talk show, it is brunch, 2 mimosas in when the people you really don't like have gone.
Yeah.
Because there's always one friend who brings somebody and you're like, why are you bringing them? We didn't want them here. And so you are able to rip off your mask and be your authentic self. And in your authentic self, when you're having a conversation, especially with people and you're comfortable, you're going to interject in. There's a lot like,
girl.
Yeah,
exactly.
There's that banter. And I think that in media, particularly from those who watch, first of all, I don't think that's a majority response to content. God bless who sent it, and I respectfully think that that's just an emotional feedback moment.
But kind of put it to the side is what I'm hearing you say.
But I think is, yes, you can always be aware because we are in audio and you want people to be able to consume it, right? I speak fast. Sometimes people talk so fast. I'm like, I do. And so stylistically, I receive feedback like that.
Yeah.
Policing me.
Right. Is different.
Is different.
Okay. I didn't think you were going to say this. This is interesting. Let me give you one more. Okay. So here's another comment. We had an episode we were talking about making sure that you are getting a return on when you hire people in the business, that they're helping you generate revenue. So from that episode, it says, wow, the way Tara talks about her employees and team is almost like they're not people to her. They're like, these humans are just a line item to her. Disposable items with no existence outside of what she needs them for.
Unless that person's a hired therapist, first of all, you can't tell me my intention or how I feel about someone. So here's the deal. Comments are tricky.
Yeah, they are.
Tricky. I can tell you over my career, there have been times where people have said things and I have been in a position where I could reach out and find that person.
Yeah.
Every one of them retracted what they said. Not because they weren't giving a true observation, but I believe sometimes the comment section promotes a level of aggressive feedback.
Completely.
Extracting ego is important because it's not, let me go back a bit.
Yeah.
You want to consider who the feedback is from, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to respect the person or you have a relationship, but do they have a valuable lane. So you said your mom, right?
Yeah.
I think my mom universally has a value in anything she says to me. But sometimes she steps over the line. I'm like, Mom, you don't know, but
this isn't your lane.
This isn't your lane.
Yeah.
So figuring out, that person's space, right? Do they have a point of view that is of value in this conversation? Not that you don't value them, but in that particular space. And then making sure that, and that's where I pause. I'm like, okay, am I receiving this with ego? Particularly when it's feedback I don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Am I like in my feelings because of an ego? Am I in my feelings because of what, right?
That feedback that I just shared with you about like, oh, she feels like the employees are a line item, that one hurt my feelings initially because I don't feel that way about my employees. But then I thought about, there was something I got from that. I actually did have a learning there. The learning was that I think like this show, we talk about being the boss and being an entrepreneur. And there is a perspective where you do have the employees and people that you hire truly actually are line items on your P&L statement in some way, right? They are. And they're also people and humans. And so what I was trying to sort of convey was that so many entrepreneurs are trying to hire people, but they're not thinking about like how that helps them grow the business. I want to go back to the conversation you were talking about lanes too, because different people have different lanes of how much you should give them weight of their feedback, how much you should weigh what they're saying, right? And I think that sometimes you've got to be careful with listening to feedback from people who are not paying customers of your business, or if you have a business that is like an audience-based business, listening to your audience. Yeah. But if it's not one of those people, I think that it gets kind of dangerous to take in and receive feedback from other folks.
Well, this is why, and no offense to some of the sites that have open access reviews, how do you know that's a real person?
Or a real customer,
Or
ever
a real
gonna be a customer, ever
And
gonna be
that's
your
why
audience.
One of my favorite movie scenes is in the movie Casino. Robert De Niro's character, he's running this restaurant, and he goes in and he gets the blueberry muffin.
Yeah.
And he opens it up to see how many blueberries are in the muffin.
Okay.
You have to watch Casino if you haven't seen it. And he's like, there should be no minimum, I think it's like 18 blueberries in every muffin. And I love that scene for a reason. Because no matter what business you have, you got to go in there and open the muffin to see if there are enough blueberries to your quality. So you can't delegate. You can to a degree, but you have to check and balance everything.
Wait, what are the blueberries in this analogy in the business?
The blueberries are whatever your business is. So if you are running a restaurant, you can't just be from afar and tell the manager, here's what I want you to do today. You have to do site visits. You have to go in and check it out. With my show.
To see your actual customer, to see the audience, to actually,
walk around. So every show I end my show, I go into the audience after every show.
Yeah.
And I chat with my audience, because it's fuel for me, but also people will pull me over and say, you should do a show on this.
Yeah.
You should do a show on that. It's not just to take a selfie. I'm meeting my customer, because right now we have about, 100 people in our audience. Yeah. If 100 people nod, that means 1,000 people are nodding. And 1,000 people, that means 2,000.
Yeah.
So I generally read, but you've got to, in my view, know who your customer is and find a way to communicate with that customer.
Yeah, I talk to so many entrepreneurs who are so scared to talk to their customer, and also they're taking in
Are they afraid of failure? What are they afraid of?
I think they're afraid of an awkward maybe conversation or hearing feedback that they're not really sure of. I think everybody's afraid of the no at the beginning, right? You're afraid of someone saying, no, I don't want to sign up for this. No, I don't want to watch that episode.
But you're not going to have a business if you're afraid of no.
Yeah, facts.
You're not. It's impossible. First of all, you had to pitch, unless you are incredibly wealthy and started a business without any other person having to be involved, you stood the risk of someone saying no. So we do a number of shows on female entrepreneurs. 90% of them had to go to a bank or go and raise funds. That means you faced a no. So why does that end with your customer? So you can face a firing squad, so to speak, if you want a loan, but the ultimate decision makers of whether or not you stay are your customers.
Yeah.
And that customer exists readers, that's listeners to a podcast, or people who sit in, whatever it is. I feel that there's an opportunity to always touch your customer, whoever that person may be.
And also get from them the right kind of feedback. Because I think like the best feedback, particularly if you have a business where someone's paying for something, even if it's a media business and there's an advertiser paying for something, is to ask someone to pay for it. Like that's when you're going to get real feedback. If you ask someone to be a customer.
I don't know many things where the customer gets it for free.
Well, but this is the thing. Like when I talk to lots of entrepreneurs, they go out and they're like, okay, maybe I should offer a free thing. I should offer something that's like not exactly the full price. And the thing is that like someone who gives you feedback that's not paying customer gives you like starts to put you on like a different path of what the feedback is.
What is something that the consumer receives for free?
Very little. I mean, maybe like you think about like content businesses, but that's really just.
But my time is my money.
Your time is your money. That's exactly right.
There's nothing in this world that I can think of that the consumer has not paid in some way.
In some way. I think that's right. And I think we have to remember that as we go out and like start new initiatives and businesses. Yeah. There was this site called Quirky, and do you remember this site?
No, it is.
Okay, it's called Quirky. It's this website, and they had the whole premise was that people could launch products on the site, and you could get feedback from people about if they wanted you to actually put that product into development.
I love that.
So it was likes. People could like and comment on it. And the problem was that people were liking and commenting on things, but when the product actually went out to be produced,
they didn't buy it. What?
Because a like is not the same thing as a buy.
I would never launch a company that way. I wouldn't. And maybe I'm old school because first of all,
how would you do it then? So instead of trying to get likes,
so I would find out if there's a festival.
Okay.
I would find out if there was some place that I could get my product in front of real people that I could be in front of.
Yeah.
So if I'm launching a cookie business, I don't know, I would try to get a booth at one of the small things. I'd find out what festivals,
and actually offer the cookie to people.
Exactly.
And say, what do you think?
What do you think? You know, I was at a restaurant recently and it just opened up and they said, we're asking what people think they like, and they're like, what's your favorite thing on the menu? What did you think about that? And I was like, oh, you want to know? Because one of the things I didn't like. So I didn't say anything. And my friend who was with me said, I didn't like theirs. I'm going to tell them. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, we should tell them. They're asking. Yeah. I was like, true, they are.
They are asking for feedback.
And so I didn't say like, oh, that was terrible. I just said, that didn't appeal. But this was my favorite, right? Yeah. But I personally feel that to launch a successful anything, you have to be in front of a human. You do.
Yeah.
You do. And by the way, if you don't
wants to actually engage with you as a customer, not just give you feedback.
And if you don't have the money to set up a booth, right, for example, you have friends and family, right? And they may not be, always neutral because they love you probably and want your business to succeed.
Do you charge the friends and family then? Like if you have a cookie business.
Do I charge my friends?
Yeah. Do we just get the friends and family feedback or do we charge them and say, do you want to buy a cookie?
If you're asking for their feedback, you don't charge them.
Okay. No,
if you're asking for someone's feedback, you don't, in the infancy, right? Now, that's a funny question. Did you ask me? I never thought of it because at this restaurant, I'm sitting there, I'm paying, and now you're asking me for my feedback. That's different, because that's a restaurant. I get it. But I think if you are soliciting opinions for your product, I was just on a show in Washington, D.C., this I think it's called Coco Shea, and they teach you how to make your own like body butters and things like this, female-owned business. And I thought it was great. And I feel like a company like that, they're going to see me and they're going to say, here, Tamron Hall, can you let us know what you think?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think you should charge. You got to come up with a sample
what do
size.
you think about the product is different than like, do you want to be a customer? Would you buy?
I think it can be the same.
Okay. So you can ask someone, would you buy this thing again? Or would you buy this afterwards? It's a free sample, but would you buy it?
That's the very nature of samples.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
I mean, a sample is to allow an individual to sample it.
Yeah.
Sometimes give my feedback and also then go on to buy it.
Yeah,
I am the queen of samples. I mean, I just got a big sample box the other day from someone. I love samples because it does determine if I'm going to buy that product. I just tried a new skin product the other day.
Yeah.
And I got the sample and I was like, oh my God, I love this. And then I'm going to buy it. So I think it can serve as twofold.
Yeah. I think that samples can get really dangerous when you're, okay, so let's say that you have, I think when we're thinking about like a product that's easy to make and cheap to make, I think that's one thing. If you have an agency business and you're like, I will do some service for you for a long time for free.
No.
Right? That's kind of extending. No. Maybe you do like a consultation, like a 30-minute consultation consultation.
Oh, right.
And then we move
Absolutely.
on to,
I have a friend
okay,
who's
would you
an
like to
interior
buy?
designer.
Yeah.
I have a friend who's an interior designer, a very famous, successful person, called and said, want to talk to you about some ideas for my place. And she said, to me, should I charge them a consultation fee?
Yeah.
I've never met this person.
Right.
Should I charge them a fee? And I said, I think you should, because they're going to ask you specifics, right?
Yeah.
And that's, your brain is your product.
Yeah, and the only reason it's relevant then to have them charge is because people give you different kind of feedback if it's something that they paid for versus something they had for free.
Well, they went into the celebrity's home.
Yeah.
Got like super caught up in the celebritydom of it all, did the project, and they are still trying to get paid.
Yeah.
And then came to me after the fact and said, we redid this celebrity song.
Yeah, so imagine if they're taking feedback on how to shape their business from that person, and that person was never really going to be a paying customer in the first place.
So I think it depends on the product. So let's break it down. It depends on the product, right? It also depends on how much it costs you to offer that sample, right? But I also think in like a consulting business, or, I meet a lot of digital content people, right? I tell someone, you don't know they're good until they got the job. And I think that, this is a very thoughtful question.
It kind of depends on what it is.
I think it depends on what it is.
Okay.
I think it is, but I still go back to the blueberries with casino. As the business owner, as the entrepreneur, once you get the feedback, if you don't get, whatever it is, people, I find more than ever, get caught up in the rush of it and forget about whatever it is that they are providing.
Yeah.
If you are, for example, someone who does digital content, watching your content, just don't go straight to the comments. I think people go straight to the Yelp review or whatever the review is, and they don't look at their own product. They don't see how their
use your own gut to tell you what your own kind. I'm hearing this kind of trend from the beginning of this conversation for you about leveraging your gut as your core source of feedback as opposed to the external feedback.
And it doesn't mean that feedback should be negated. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is there has to be at some point a belief that you got to this point with this idea because of you.
Yeah.
Period. You've got to bet on yourself in this idea.
And stop ignoring your gut and just listening to what everybody else is saying.
And that doesn't mean that there's not value. And I am not a person who believes that anything is built alone.
Yeah.
But I do believe that oftentimes, especially when you're starting out, you survey the room until you are dizzied with feedback. And I've been there where there's
called mentor whiplash.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, like whiplash by everybody's opinion.
It's a dizzying effect.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're talking about what it means to be a boss, and that's what bosses do.
What is what bosses do?
You stand, as the kids say, 10 toes down.
10 toes down.
And what you believe.
Yeah.
And you must at some point do that. And you can survey the room. You can read the comments. Wherever you get your incoming, right? That's cool.
Yeah. It's you. I want to talk about, like, when you do want to get feedback, the best ways to get feedback from people. Like, when we started this show, I would have a hard time getting people to give me, like, on our team, give me feedback.
Oh, yeah.
And I would go, like, how was it? And everybody would say, like, it was good. Right. And that was it was great. And that was it. And that was driving me nuts because I really was trying to survey the room and get feedback. Now, I might synthesize it through my own gut and opinion and, take out, and leave in some things. But one of the things that I had to do, and I do this a lot with, like, my team and folks that I work with, is instead of asking, what do you think? I ask, what was the number one high and the number one low?
Oh.
Because that kind of, like, forces people to say
an answer. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that because I've experienced it. I will leave this conversation, and my publicist will have heard it, and I'll say, what was it? She's going to say, it was great. I think that's a very smart thing.
What was the high and the low?
I think that's a very smart thing because, in fact, I just took my kid to see the Kids Bop live concert in Jersey, and I said to him, how was it?
Yeah.
He said, it was awesome. And then I said, okay, well, what was your favorite song?
Yeah.
And then he said, oh gosh, I can't even. He's not going to hear us because he's in school. But Shut Up and Dance. And
Okay.
I said, well, why? And he said, because it was the finale. And I was like, oh, okay. To your point, like prodding some kind of specific, because people will give you the general, and it's not that they don't care, but I think that's a very smart boss move. I think that is to ask for a specific in that way. It's essentially asking what was your favorite thing.
Yeah.
And what was your least favorite?
What was your favorite and your least favorite?
In a polite
so you get
way.
both. Right. So they give space to say the favorite too.
I like that.
There's this process too that I really like. It's called a Google Ventures Design Sprint. And so like Google has this process. Usually they use it for software, but they use it for getting feedback on the things that they make.
Right.
So like let's say that they're making Gmail for the first time and they've got the like screens and they want to get feedback. And so you can look this up on YouTube. Yeah. They've got like really good tutorials on how to do this. But the whole premise is to watch someone using your product or doing your thing. Yeah. So first what you do is you kind of just like give them context, like, hey, I want to get your feedback on this. I'm not testing you. I'm testing my product. I'm testing my book. I'm testing my software, whatever it is. And then you start to like, you give them the prototype of what it is and ask them to think out loud. Right. So you might hand them your book, for example, and say like, okay, like, talk to me about what page you're turning to first. Right. Did they turn to the first page or did they go to the middle of the book first? Okay, like, and walk me through, like, if you saw this page, like, what would you do? What would you do next? What would you do next?
We have focus groups for my show.
Tell me about that.
So, we don't have them anymore simply because we're now in our 6th season. But the first 2 seasons we had focus groups, and people would come in and they'd watch an episode and they were asked how they felt. Just the usual, and I think a lot of people don't realize folks still do focus groups. Yeah. As big as a company is, like a Disney, a focus group is important. So we would do focus groups of just a diverse group of people from all different areas who consider themselves viewers of the show and or people who could potentially be viewers of the show.
Do you watch these focus groups?
I do. I read the data from them.
Okay, great.
I read the data and what I'll tell you a surprising one. Early on, for some reason, our focus groups came back with not wanting me to do animal shows. They were not into it.
Okay. And
I was like, this is how
they hated this.
I still do animal shows because I like animal shows, and somehow they rate. And I'm like, wait a minute. That goes back to, monitoring the feedback.
So the focus group said don't do it.
They said that it was their least favorite content on the show.
You said, sorry, I like it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway.
I really like it, but I'm going to figure out a way to make you like it.
And then after you posted it and put these shows out, they liked it.
Well, the first one I did after was pre the TikTok thing where the dogs read. We found like the first dog that went viral for reading, and like they hit the dog will hit. So it's go
really
yeah. So the dog, they have these little little boards, and then the dog can hit it. And the dog is reading. It's incredible. I didn't believe it was real.
So how did that go?
It's great. The dog read on my air. We flew the dog in from San Francisco.
Girl, I don't mean the dog. I mean the episode. How did the episode? She loves the dogs. How did the episode go? So like you're doing something that people were like, we're not really sure.
No, they said they didn't want it. But as a person who has 178 shows a season, what I enjoy was the challenge of creating something that I'm going to make you now want something you don't even know you need. And that was to smile at or go, holy moly, this dog read. Yeah. So in that focus group, 99% of it was amazing. They wanted to know, funny enough, in the focus group, they wanted to know more about my life, my at-home life. That's a challenge because that brings in a whole different individual, too, my husband and my kid. Yeah. And my son is 5, and there are a lot of, so I had to pick and choose of that feedback what I was comfortable with, right?
Right.
But then on content, I was always curious about it because I'm like, well, everybody loves a good dog. Come on, look, cat story, are you kidding me? The internet would be nothing without cat videos. Yeah. So as a content creator, that was exciting to try to figure out a way to have a show with animals that my audience, who really likes a conversation, wanted to see.
Interesting. How do you have a conversation with the animals?
Unless a conversation with a specific dog that can read. It was amazing. But I look for ways to do that. But going back to what we were talking about, what I do also with my team that sounds similar to what you were explaining with Google. Yeah. We have a rule. I want my show to make you feel a way. Anthony Hamilton has a phenomenal song, Can You Feel Me? Am I Getting Through to You? Yeah. And that's a mantra on our show. It's like, do you feel a way? And I want our audience to feel something, anger, joy, sadness, a feeling. Yeah. And with every question, with every intro, how are you allowing an opportunity for people to feel
something? And you're also taking the feedback and synthesizing it through, I hear that feedback, but also how does this align to my value of needing people to feel something?
Exactly. And so I look at the scripts, when I leave you, I have 2 scripts I've got to read. And sometimes I'll go back to my producer and I'll say, what did you want a person to feel? What is that question? What is that? So we dissect, because the words that are coming out of my mouth have impact, and they set the stage for the conversation.
I think I started this conversation with you have changed my opinion a little bit about how I'm thinking about feedback, and I think in a good way. I think that
I hope in a good way.
I think in a good way, but in a way that's more aligned with the confidence of my gut.
Yes.
Right? Because so many of us, like you were saying, we start something and we know what directionally where we want to take it. Yeah. And then we start getting all the feedback, all the input. Your mama's got something to say. Your cousin's got something to say. Your customers have something to say. Their comments and Instagram has something to say. And we get kind of distracted.
Right.
If you think about Coke had this project that they did where they tried to change
the
new Coke, right? So they tried to change the flavor, and people want Pepsi, they want something sweeter, and they try to change it, and they do focus groups, and everybody tells them, we want this new thing. And actually it turns out that they didn't change it and put it out on the market, and actually the mass market doesn't want that, because people, I think, really want, if you have a strong opinion about something, about way something should taste, the way your business should go, there's a cohort of people who love that and really will stick with that because it's something specific.
Well, theirs was also a marketing disaster of it as well.
They also marketed it crazily.
They empowered people to hate it by soliciting too much. So that's that was a whole different thing. But a couple of things. I think, first of all, feedback. Be thankful enough people want to give you the feedback. So I think that's something that's often missed, because I do think, whether it's the comment that was sent in or a family member, that your product or what you are doing has made them feel a way. So much so, they are giving you a reaction, whether it's good, bad. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but it's up to you to know what to do with that.
So be inspired that whatever product you have creates an emotion in people.
Yeah.
I think that's powerful. Even the comment that I didn't like that person sent in to you, that your product that you're putting in the marketplace through your show made that person want to react. Boom. So you've made them feel a way. That's great. Now you say, all right, they're saying we're talking over each other. Let me listen to an episode, because there may be validity in it. Okay, I listen and I don't think so. I think we're being authentic. Okay, we'll put that on the back burner.
Yeah.
But you heard and you watched you checked the blueberries.
Yeah, you checked the blueberries.
Right. So that's a great thing, right? So that's a great thing.
I like how I have my blueberry outfit
I do too. I love
to go with the analogy.
The third thing, it is like the gut, right?
Yeah.
So I watched it. My gut tells me that episode was cool, because guess what? That might have been one episode that person was reacting to. You do how many episodes?
Yeah, plenty,
so you have to survey the landscape, right? So maybe on episode 222 we were talking over each other, but I do 500 episodes. So da-da-da-da-da, right? And so there's so many factors. But going to your gut, receiving that people care enough about your product to even give you feedback, putting it in context, and then going back to the core of who you are. Look at you. You are authentically presented as uniquely you. Right? I am sure many people have said that is not how you should be walking into a room. Right?
Yeah.
I've received that feedback as well. But that authenticity, that gut, is why you are sitting in this chair, and there are other people at home right now saying, I could do that better than her. Or I could do that better than him. Yeah, I'm sure there are many people who feel that way, and that's okay. Yeah. You're here, uniquely presented as you, because of you going with your gut. So I think that the feedback is important. I think you should be humbled and grateful that people care enough to even give it to you.
Yeah.
But then you have to unpack it.
Yeah.
And
the
that's how I do.
unpacking part, I think, is what you've really left us
without
with.
Without emotion.
And with confidence that you know that you've got something good. I love this and what you're kind of leaving us with and thinking about in terms of feedback. I'm going to invite all of our listeners and watchers to join in on the conversation. If you go to YouTube, we can see the comments. I would love for you to share one piece of feedback you've gotten in your career or your business that you're glad you listened to, and one piece of feedback that you did not listen to and you're glad you didn't listen to that. We'll kind of share and do a community share in the chat. Thank you so much for being here, Tamron. It's really fun. And I think for people who are kind of feeling stuck on like, what do I do with all this feedback? You've really empowered us to think about, well, you simmer on it a little bit, but also it's your gut.
Bet on yourself. Bet on yourself. You're here for a reason. You have this idea for a reason. Now make it happen.
Beautiful.